Who are these
We're
people?
going to begin, though, this morning with a growing fallout from what Democrats say is just a political stunt by Republicans, using migrant lives, they say, as props. We're talking about the dozens of asylum seekers flown to Martha's Vineyard without notice, and in some cases, they didn't even know where they were going. They were sent from Texas by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who says he's just making a point about America's immigration policies. Elaine Quijano is on Martha's Vineyard with more on the story. Elaine, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Gail. I'm standing outside a church here in Edgartown where some 50 migrants, including several children, are receiving food and shelter. Now, the community here has rallied behind these migrants, and local officials are coordinating with the state to find them other housing as cities prepare for an ongoing political battle.
In a whaling port turned popular vacation destination, St. Andrew's Episcopal Church normally only needs to provide shelter for a few people at a time. But today it's offering accommodations for about 50, a group of Venezuelan migrants, including elderly and children as young as 4, none of whom speak English, and some without relatives or resources in the U.S. Some documented their trip, taking pictures and videos with their cell phones. This mother was told she was heading to Washington. She says, "I want my son to be safe, go to school, and have the safety we didn't have in our home country." The migrants flew in from Texas on 2 planes chartered by Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis.
We are not a sanctuary state.
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
This is an unprecedented crisis.
Ivan Espinosa is part of a team of lawyers working to help determine the next steps for the migrants who arrived in Martha's Vineyard. He says none of the migrants knew they would end up here, and that some who were in need of medical care did not receive it before leaving Texas. Some migrants say they were handed a map of the island before arriving, but were told little else or given conflicting information.
The misinformation, the misrepresentations are seen in every step of the way.
On Thursday, buses carrying about 100 asylum seekers and migrants from Texas arrived unannounced outside Vice President Kamala Harris's residence at the U.S. Naval Observatory. So far, Texas and Arizona have sent at least 295 buses with approximately 13,000 migrants to D.C., New York, and Chicago, drawing strong criticism from Democratic leaders and the Biden administration.
Republicans are playing politics with human beings. What they're doing is simply wrong. It's un-American. It's reckless.
Warning. You are about to enter a free-thinking, innovative, open-minded environment.
And totally open-minded.
This is the Tommy Nation Politics.
Hey guys, this is Tommy,
Tuesday.
Tommy Nation Politics.
This is what I'm talking about, guys. Tommy Nation Politics.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics.
What's up, guys? Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's it going today? So, I don't know if you noticed, but I sent a little podcast video out from my Anchor FM account. That's Anchor FM, Thomas Salisbury, Tommy Nation Politics podcast. It had to do with religion, and it had to do with hypocrisy. It had to do with the corruption in our government, in our principles, and our values that cause us to look, through other means for a chance of redemption, a chance of meaning, a chance of purpose. When in reality, guys, we're our own worst enemy. Our complicitness in evil, there is someone holding that accountable to us. It's not a God. It's ourselves. And whatever you expect, you must inspect. We had a Constitution, a Bill of Rights, amendments, giving us inalienable rights of life, liberty, and happiness. Those have slowly been curtailed. Our civil liberties have deteriorated. And we're at where we're at now because of our own actions of apathy towards the political process and bandwagon mentality towards the Republicans and Democrats. It's left them no choice but to disrespect the wishes of the American people and to run rampant over our God-given country and our rights. It's just a matter of fact, and it's just a process that all powerful people throughout history have done. My economics teacher in 9th grade, she always talked about how when people in power want more power, they'll come up to you, right? Until you say stop. Then they'll step back a little bit. Then they'll come back up until you say stop. Then they'll go back a little bit. It's that principle, guys, where we never say stop. We just keep voting for Republicans and Democrats. And this is where we're at. Like George Washington said, they've usurped the reins of government and carved for themselves from the very engines that which brought them to unjust dominion. Now, it's getting worse and worse, as you could probably tell by, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces has gone from a narcissistic orange guy with a 3rd grade reading level to a dementia-riddled old man with a large number of criminal activities that have not been investigated by the FBI. I only wonder what's going to happen next, on the next step of our apathy and our complicity towards the lesser of two evils. There's something we could do about that right now, guys. We could stop being hypocrites. We could start having principles and values. Now, in my video, I talked about religion. And I just want to be clear. I don't hate religion. I don't hate anybody who has real principles and sincere values, and they live by those. That's something I strive to. To one about example, the shine that talked about supposed to be principle part of human say I have with or without mentality. See, funny add around to is they like move the country or in the country so this thinking statement human beings that have been countries leave their country cartel the and the interesting pundit inside left they don't with the immigrants. That's how guys. This is mad being you bust to markets where welcome welcome. You took beings for their life, made them this statement for your us into a mockery. A beacon on the hill that Reagan talked about, it's supposed to be us, guys. But these two parties have turned us into a mockery of principles and values. And they've unleashed an ugly part of human nature, guys, that I'm sorry to say, I have to stand up against and to confront with or without your bandwagon mentality. Now, it's no secret that the funny thing that Governor Abbott and Ron DeSantis like to do is they like to move immigrants that have been displaced from their countries due to our drug war and the cartels. They like to move them all around the country to sanctuary cities like Chicago and to Martha's Vineyard, thinking it's funny, making a political statement with human beings. Human beings that have been displaced from their countries have had to leave their countries because of the cartels, because of the crime and the dangers. And it's just interesting to hear all of the pundits talk about on the right-hand side, oh, yeah, the left is so mad because they don't want to be with the immigrants. Maybe the Democrats don't want to be with the immigrants. That's not why the left is mad, guys. The left is mad because you took human beings and you bust them all the way to Martha's Vineyard, a place where not even we're welcome. We're not rich and elite. You think the illegal immigrants are going to be welcome? Of course they're not going to be welcome. You took innocent human beings that are trying to run for their lives and you made them political pieces in a statement for your own ego and your narcissism. A lot of right-wingers they're literally thinking this is okay and this is protecting the law. Protecting the law is taking people that have no idea where they are, taking them somewhere else, and they have no idea why you're doing it. I know why you're doing it, because it's not just the illegal immigrants, guys, that are being treated and tossed around like trash. It's us. It's funny because, the right wing is talking about how they're doing something about it. Did they do something about it when 8 million people slipped into poverty during COVID and they destroyed the safety nets and the jobs that people had during that pandemic? When small businesses were crushed and the PPP loans were handed out to mega billion-dollar corporations. And all of these companies conglomerated into monopolies and became wealthy. And their assets and their wealth tripled during the COVID pandemic. Was that funny? No, guys. Everything these guys are doing to the least of us, they're doing to us as well. And it saddens me that we can look and laugh and joke about these poor immigrants that are making a treacherous choice to try to save their families, because you either join the cartel or die in these South American countries. And we take them and we mock them and we make them jokes and send them to Martha's Vineyard. It's disgusting. It's also disgusting, guys. We're taking hard-earned tax dollars from the working class and we're putting it in Zelensky's pocket. Neither the Democrats or the Republicans care about us, the immigrants, the rule of law, or the Constitution. In fact, they shudder at the thought of the Constitution, because they know in the Constitution it says, "We, the people of the United States, form a more perfect union and establish justice." All of these little games that they're playing they're just political theater to get you to forget about the real power that you have. And I hope it's not working, guys. I hope that we don't try to invent sky gods or lessers of two evils to try to distract ourselves from the fact that we're involved and complicit and allowing evil. That's not something that I'm going to allow, guys. I'm not going to allow you to be distracted. I'm not going to allow you to get away with being complicit. I'm going to hold you accountable for your principles and values. And if you're love and you represent love, then be patient, be kind. Don't envy or boast. Don't be proud, rude, or self-seeking. Never fail at your principles and values. Never fail to represent this country and the nation for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For all. Don't let these Democrats and Republicans divide us. Don't let the ugliness of their jokes on behalf of their inhumanity make you laugh. If you really want to represent your religion, your principles and values, guys, first of all, don't let the Democrats and Republicans represent those. But secondly, you have to lead by example. And now is the time that we must stand, as our founding fathers once did. Instead of the nobles and the elites, the parliament, the president, it's time for the people to stand and to make a resounding declaration of our independence, of our principles, and of our commitment to keeping a country where all men are created equal and all men are treated fairly and justly under the law, where torture is not allowed. It's a stain. The treaty we signed at the Geneva Conventions, we have to live up to that, guys. We can't allow our FBI to be torturing people or searching and seizuring people, even we don't like. We have to be consistent. We have to be credible. We have to be leaders, because we don't have any leaders. We have two parties that have usurped the reins of government. So that's just really my point, where if you think that you're going to, you hate gays and you hate abortions and you're just going to go ahead and try to proselytize and try to convince people of your point of view without having those principles and values, it's a lost cause. Just like it was a lost cause for the South to pretend it wasn't a war about slavery, when their agriculture dipped due to their non-labor of freed slaves. Let's not forget about the truth. Let's analyze it and be free thinkers. With our empirical data, with our minds, with our souls that know right from wrong, let's live up to the expectations and the promise of the Constitution and our creed. Or, let's join in the mockery. There was a quote in Back to the Future, guys, that Doc says. He says, "The future is what you make it, so make it a good one." It's really a kind of a cheesy quote, guys, but in every situation, in every single circumstance where your principles and values are tested, when your Bible tells you to love one another, when Jesus threw out the money changers of the temple, and we have money changers in the temple today. If you don't live up to the representation of your principles and values, guys, it'll change. It'll evolve into something that you never knew, which is what our country is doing. I've never known a good people like us to laugh at poor immigrants being bused from city to city. It's just amazing how low we've sunk, guys, to laugh at people's misfortunes as our own people are living in tent cities, are under the poverty line, living paycheck to paycheck with no health care and no available expenses for an emergency. We're all living in fear and uncertainty, except for the 1% that own more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. And if we don't take a stand, and if we don't change it ourselves and make the future what we make it, the future will be what they make it. And history has already described and conveyed what the future is that they will make. They will make an overturning of our lives, liberty and happiness. It's just their nature. It's the nature of the powerful to want more power. If you wish to have liberty, you must not allow it. If you wish to have principles and values in this country, you've got to show them. Nobody knows what they are with our leaders. If you want to have a country that has life, liberty, and happiness, then we've got to maintain that. It's our birthright. And so, guys, I just want to put a little cherry on that negative message. I mean, it's just a ridiculous thing, hating people for being different. If you disagree with something, the best way you could persuade somebody else to do anything is to do what you're saying and do it well. That way they look at you and say, well, my life isn't what I thought it was, making the decisions I made. Look at this person. They're happy. They're content. They can sleep at night. They are above reproach and ethical. There's something I want to become. And that's the best kind of persuasion. It's not any kind of hate. It's not any kind of banning. It's not any kind of, slander or divisive rhetoric. It's love. What love I thought was supposed to be. I learned it from 2 Corinthians, guys. Let me know if it's changed. Maybe it's changed to laughing at immigrants. I don't know, guys. I don't know, but there's a lot of you on the chat, and some of the questions that I'm asking are like really legitimate questions. Because at this point, guys, I'm just kind of lost in the ugliness of our country. How we could really allow all this stuff to happen. And how can we allow our president to go after Brittany Griner while there's people in jail for smoking marijuana for 9 years in Texas? Like, how can we allow this? It's insane, guys. Aren't you sick of it? Don't you want clarity, transparency, honesty, and not hypocrisy, corruption, and propaganda? Now's the time. We must hold each other accountable. We've got to make this country great again. The only way to do that is us. Domination Politics.